He should do one or the other, right?
Well, if he doesn't intend
Right.
to sit on the panel that hears this case, then I would guess he could stay on the task force, and then he wouldn't have a conflict. But that's just me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Laura.
Hi.
Well, this is
Hi,
great.
everyone.
I believe that we are all here. Hi, Katie. Hi, Carl. Great to see you. Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Elaine, this is Mike. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Yes.
Great. Good.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Thank you all, and especially thank you to Laura and Katie for being here this afternoon. As you saw, we got the comments back from Town Council on our RFP. We have postponed taking it to the Select Board till September 8th because we definitely had to look at what happened with those comments and how much of it we want to incorporate, we should incorporate, we don't need to incorporate. So are we ready just to take a look at it, go through it? Laura, do you have a suggestion on the best way to do it? Just page by page?
I don't know. I just went through and made comments on my copy, but I'd say just take page by page any comments on. I think that's probably the easiest.
Okay, so that means I have to attempt to screen share here. Let's see what we can do.
That's way beyond me, so I'm going to look at a piece of paper.
Yeah, it's often hard to look at it.
Yeah.
On the screen share.
No, that's not right. Shoot. Okay, I'm gonna stop. Wait. I have it under my Zoom meeting. I don't know if that's the right way to do it or not. Let's
just minimize your Zoom meeting thing.
Kathleen, can I ask you a question while she's looking for that? Is the rail trail effort and the Route 6 bike trail effort on hold, do you know, or is it going forward? And the reason we ask is about a crosswalk at Outer Cape Pharmacy and the Route 6.
That plan's being presented tonight at the Board of Selectmen meeting.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, from Stantec.
So it is still going forward.
I don't know where to begin with that, Gary.
I'm sorry.
Or how to answer that question.
Back, Kathleen.
There's not a short answer for you.
There you go.
Well, the state did buy Charlie Amsler's property there in Route 6.
That's done. That's a done deal. Yes.
Yeah.
That was done a year ago or more.
should I make it full screen or are we good? This is good enough, I hope.
Good.
I'm good with that, Elaine.
Okay.
Yeah. Good.
Okay. So Mike and I did go through with Town Council all their comments. Some we didn't know if it was the right thing to have in or not. So, you know, this is why we need definitely to hear from Laura today. And I did get a few little typos and interesting, you know, comments from a couple of you. So I guess, Laura, we'll go through and just ask if everything is fine or needs changes as we go through. I assume adding design and operate is okay on page 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Page 2, 1, 2, third paragraph, last sentence. It says the ground lease will govern the development and operation of the project. That's too much control. That'll be the Attorney General will tag that if it gets that far.
Okay.
Where I can't see that.
Where is that, Laura? I don't.
It's farther. It's
right there.
Right there. The last sentence. It says the town intends to enter into a land disposition agreement and lease. And the last sentence says the ground lease will govern the development and operation of the project.
Okay.
So you want to take that out, Laura?
Yes.
I agree.
Okay. Can we do that right here or just after the fact?
Sure.
Who's got the whiteout?
Can I just delete it, or, but then will it be saved?
I can send you my notes so you can, I made comments next to it and highlighted them, so that might be easier for you. For those that you accept, I'll just leave there.
Okay. Okay, yeah, those are the kind of things that we had no idea whether that was the right thing.
Yeah, and they should know better.
Okay.
Sorry. Editorial
Okay, well,
comment.
we better look this over very carefully.
That's good. They should know what the Attorney General is thinking, right?
Yeah, they should. Okay, the next thing is down on this page.
Yeah.
Should be, let's see, the last sentence right before, so it says, I'm not going to find it here. The property will be sold in as-is condition.
Right.
The last sentence, it's leased.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then the next paragraph, it says, the last sentence says, all costs and expenses of purchasing and developing the property. Can you see that?
Right.
Yeah.
Leasing.
Yeah.
And developing.
Leasing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
both of those are wrong.
Yeah.
So just change purchasing to leasing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And sold to leasing.
To lease, right.
The one before, Elaine, has the property will be leased in as-is condition.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, let's see. I guess what my next one is. Stop. So this is a theme that that's throughout this, and I will tell you what needs to happen, and then I'll give you a kind of Reader's Digest explanation, and if you want me to go into further detail, which you probably will, I will do that. So the last sentence, under affordability, the first paragraph, the last sentence that says, all of the units shall be affordable for the full term of the ground lease. That's a problem. And there's a couple, it says it a number of times or different ways, and I'll tell you where they are, including the next paragraph and some other places. The reason why that is a problem is that when a developer goes to get financing, they can only get 85% of the value. If you added up the cost of construction, the cost of construction far exceeds what the value of the property is, because the value of the property is based on cash flow. And because the rents are affordable, the cash flow is lower. Everyone following me there?
Yeah.
If it costs $10 million to build it, it's probably worth $6.5 million. So, so if you permanently restrict all the units,
the Zoom meeting. I might have pressed the wrong button. That's okay. Bye.
So if you restrict the units, then the property has to be appraised at that lower cash flow. And so a developer can't get a mortgage that covers the cost of the construction, even with subsidies. So what the solution has been is that regardless of how many units are affordable under tax credits and other things, none of those survive foreclosure. What this says in a number of different places is that all of the units will be affordable for the full term, regardless of foreclosure. And that would make the project infeasible for any developer to do. So what funders have said is that they will agree, and towns have agreed to, if in the case of foreclosure, fall back to what is the most amount of affordability there can be, with a minimum of 25% at 80%, which is the 40B standard, that would survive foreclosure. And the rest of them have restrictions that would carry them in perpetuity, but for foreclosure. So if a project goes into foreclosure, it's infeasible. The cash flow isn't working. So to require those to stay affordable doesn't make sense.
Okay.
Anyway, so that's why, and I'll tell you that KP is fighting this battle all over the state. KP law, trying to make the affordability first position, surviving foreclosure, and for 99 years. And it will kill it. You can't do it. It's infeasible. So the town has to agree to this. But the zoning board usually is the one who agrees to it, maybe the Board of Selectmen with the ground lease. But it is the only way that they would not be affordable for the whole 99 years or in perpetuity is in the case of foreclosure.
Right. So you just say that, right? I mean, Laura, you just say that all the units shall be affordable for the full term, except in the case of foreclosure? Is that what?
I think you turn it around and say that in the case of foreclosure, at a minimum, 25% of the units at 80% would
remain for
would remain. Right.
Okay.
So are you saying most of this will come out, what they put in here?
No, it's really just, so it's the last sentence of the affordability, the last sentence of the first paragraph. And then there's the third line of the next paragraph, which restriction shall include minimum affordability requirements that shall run for the full term of the ground lease and be in the form and substance, and there's a whole bunch in there. I can have, I'll draft something and have our general counsel review it. We're in this battle in a number of towns with KP.
So Laura, I have a question. It's Kathleen. How frequent is foreclosure in your professional career?
So the only time I've ever seen foreclosure was during the banking crisis in like 1990 and 91, where the savings banks all had issues. That's the only time I've ever seen foreclosure, and that was due to over appraising properties and not doing a lot of due diligence, in my opinion. Other than that, I've never seen it. I haven't ever seen it. And MHP has never had a loan default in our history. So it's
so
rare.
The reason I ask it, Laura, is because we went to the planning board over a year ago, or maybe not. It's all a blur because this has gone on for so long.
Yeah.
But this topic came up at our planning board when we were presenting 95 Lawrence Road to the planning board, and it was of concern to the planning board, and I do believe it will be of concern to our zoning board. How much concern it will mount for the Board of Selectmen, I cannot say at this time, but know that there's been conversations around this topic already with regard to 95 Lawrence Road.
Yeah, it's actually typical that,
Okay,
especially for planning boards and sometimes finance committees, if they get, asked about it. But, we can certainly show the statistics that it's extremely rare, especially in the case of, tax credit projects and such that have, private investment in them, that would take a severe hit if it was foreclosed upon. So it's.
thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I can tell you. But I can tell you that with this provision in there, these provisions in there, that no one would be able to do it. It would be infeasible. You wouldn't get anyone to propose.
Can I ask
No,
a question on that paragraph that it says all units that are affordable will meet SHI requirements, that's fine. But then the next sentence says all the units shall be affordable. If all the units shall be affordable, does that require them all to be below 80%?
Yes.
So it seemed like a contrary to the one above, which says
Right.
between 80 and 120%.
Right. I agree.
So that sentence comes out.
Yes. And the next paragraph needs to be reworked.
You could say all affordable units shall be affordable for the full term.
But
No.
you're saying you don't want to say that.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying there is a contradiction in the.
There's a contradiction regardless of the perpetuity issue.
Yeah, right.
Elaine?
Yes, hi there.
Under sale or transfer, there's a slight typo. In the
Right.
second sentence, it can't be of a sign or a sign, OR, as opposed to OF. Any portion thereof or a sign.
Yeah, Carl had pointed that out too. Is that it should say of there?
No, it should say
or.
of to or.
Should
Yeah.
say or.
Yeah, I assume that's what they meant to say, but.
So the second sentence, any portion thereof or a sign.
Yes.
Or otherwise
Yeah,
transferred.
they're talking about what could happen to the property. Could they sell it or assign it to somebody?
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
What'd you
On the
think?
next line, under building design and aesthetics, we say we say that there'll be parking, and then they added a minimum of 1 parking space per unit, which I don't have any problem with, but shall we consolidate those two?
Zoning says, I don't know if it applies to something like this, but with single-family residences, the zoning says 2 spaces per unit. So, but I guess with something like this, it would make it too difficult, I'm guessing.
Right. And actually my comment was not her call. It's not a legal issue. It's a zoning board issue and a developer issue. Developer proposes.
Good point.
So that will come up.
I don't think that's a legal comment.
Okay.
Get rid of it. Right.
Out it goes.
Sorry, I'm being
could say,
contrary.
Yeah.
if we
no,
wanted to, Elaine, we could say there shall be adequate parking
Right.
scattered as much as possible.
No.
I think we talked a lot about this.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Too. Okay.
Where did I put it? The line, the site has town water. That first sentence, and then she added the town inspects the wastewater system at the site. It's not necessarily at the site.
Right. Carl had noted that. So take out at the site, right?
mhm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You could say, the town inspects the wastewater water system for this project or something if she wants to. I don't know why, but it's not at the site anyway. And then the next edit on the site has approximately how many feet of frontage on Lawrence Road. I just put Y, but we can determine it if you want. I don't know why it's important, but
I don't remember any justification for that. Do you, Mike?
No, I think that we had determined that was not necessary to keep that in there.
Okay.
This is just concerned that we said that the entrances would be on that road, and that's why she referenced it. But we can take it out.
okay, it doesn't matter one way or the other. It was just a Y. Let's see. Next thing.
Yeah, this it was under the site that they asked if we had anything delineating the 6 acres, and they had suggested, we do have that one from Bowler that doesn't delineate it, so they suggested putting that in or replacing this one with that one.
Okay.
I think it does make sense to kind of show the 6 acres.
Mhm.
Right. Well, in order to have a lease or a land disposition agreement, you're gonna have to have meets and bounds. You're gonna have to have it surveyed.
Right.
But it's
You need a stamped survey is what you need.
yeah.
Yes.
But do you think adding that in place of this, or adding a 5th figure, just replace this one with the?
I would put it in the attachments.
In the attachments, okay.
Yeah.
That's easier. That's good. Okay.
All right. And then next, go back up. She changed there to his or her. Not a big deal, but we've been changing pronouns to be non-gendered throughout things. So
Yeah, I agree, Laura. I would rather see it non-gender, gender neutral.
yeah. I know that's picky, but we've been consistent in trying to do that.
Good. That's a whole new way of doing it.
Let's see.
Oh yeah. They have,
Local preference.
Yeah, this is a tough one.
No, it's not tough.
I mean, they've made it.
in talking to Katie, I felt like they didn't actually know the definition of local preference. That's the legal 3 things.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you think this is has merit, Laura, or
the local preference is the requirement of the town, not the developer.
right.
So this just says that they, if there was, actually, I didn't even know that, I don't know how this got in because I usually take it out, that the proposer or the property manager understands what the local preference opportunities and requirements are. In order to do a lottery, they need to know that. But the requirement or the desire has to come from the town. So you can't require it. It has to, but you can request it of the state, whoever the subsidizing agency would be at the time, after you've signed a land disposition agreement. It has to be within 3 months of them getting permitting. The town has to do it. So it doesn't make sense to require to do what they're saying because you can't require it. You can't require it of the developer because they can't grant it.
Okay.
And they can't even ask for it. You have to.
And you said you often take this out, that whole bullet out, or stop it after requirements, or?
I usually say something about a clear understanding of the of how the lottery will address local preferences if approved.
That's good. Mm-hmm. Should we change that? Would you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Laura, you're saying basically it's the process that they have to describe rather than talking specifically about the preference.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is under the category of the proposer shall demonstrate. So it's,
Right.
they just have to be knowledgeable. We're not requiring local preference as part of the RFP.
No, a clear understanding of how the lottery will address a local preference if approved by the subsidizing agency or something like that. That's what I usually say.
Then there was a question, I think in talking, Mike, with Katie, we thought end recording was wrong in there, to have that in there. Laura?
Elaine, I'm at a disadvantage. I'm in my car. I don't have that document in front
Okay.
of me. Can you tell me what you're referencing?
I thought when we were, or was it, I mean, this is where we have land development agreement, and should it be land disposition agreement?
Yeah.
Consistent?
Yeah, it was inconsistent. It was
Yeah.
it was mentioned as disposition in one spot and development in another spot, and there was no, whatever, as long as it's consistent one way or the other, it
Right.
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, they're the same thing, but yeah, they often get, because they're both LDAs, and so they often get, I thought I went through and changed it, but it also says with the projected development should be completed within 3 years of the execution and recording of the land development agreement. Land development agreements aren't always recorded, sometimes they are.
I felt when we talked that was determined that might not need to be in there.
Right.
Yeah. So it's fine without that in there, right, Laura?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that will come out.
It's also inconsistent. I had not capitalized proposer, and in some places she did, and in some places she didn't. So we just have to be consistent on. I'm fine with capitalizing. It just needs to be consistent.
Okay. Okay.
What else? All the next, not yet. All of this is kind of a little overkill, but it's nothing that's egregious. It just, is basically they're on their own. The only two I had problems with the last two. All proposals must be submitted on the forms provided or on attachments approved in advance by the town. No, proposals are, there's a few attachments that are standard, but they're standard for all of them. And some of them say some of the stuff that she said up above. And then all information concerning materials, warranties, guarantees, complete plans, and complete specifications are due at the time of the proposal opening.
Can't do that.
You can't do that.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So O and P are out.
Okay. And it didn't seem like they put this in the section of, it seemed like it should go back in section 6 if we're going to have it, developers as opposed section 6 is the proposal submission requirements.
Yeah, like I said, it's a bit of legal overkill, but
They get paid by the word.
Yeah. And then let's see, what else did I had?
She thought there should be an explanation of who the evaluation committee is.
Yeah.
I mean, if we just say it's the 95 Lawrence Road Task Force and ex officio town administrator.
Yeah. As long as that's, you know, that's who's supposed to be doing it.
That's what our charge said, which
Yeah.
was never run by council, I don't think so.
No, I think that's fine. You can make up your own review committee. The Board of Selectmen have, or Select Board has the authority to designate someone and delegate, and then it comes back to them for approval. So it's fine. And the last thing they had was, should this also address management and maintenance plan, zoning and permitting, implementation timeline? I think those were submissions that they had to do, and whether or not you wanted to grade them on those things. I wouldn't grade on zoning and permitting. There's only one way to do it. Implementation timetable. You say that they have to be ready to work in 90 days. So if they're not, you know, they don't really meet your threshold. And management and maintenance plan, you know, I think we said something about that in their developer experience, or whatever we call it.
There is something in there.
Are we still on this long list, Laura?
No, it's further down, Elaine.
Oh, sorry.
Where are we? Much further
Keep
down?
going.
The
Keep going.
attachment A, sorry.
Oh,
I just kept going. So that first section right there, stop.
Yeah, you just passed it.
Okay, right there. So it talks about property management experience with similar projects, and success in marketing approach, and from
Track
affordable
record.
housing. So I think you got it covered. I think you got those three things. Well, two of the three things covered, and the third one, there's no option but 40B really for this.
so that last bullet comes out.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's, they hadn't really looked at the attachments.
Okay.
Okay, wait, here we go. So we're not paying any attention to that.
I just take all that out. Yeah.
Yep, okay,
That's really a comment anyway.
okay.
No, I know that I saw her comment that the land disposition agreement needs work, or they thought so.
Mhm.
That's a form that we had created, and then it went through, we had an attorney create it, and then it went through DHCD's edits. And so, but oftentimes they change, local attorneys or local town councils change it. It's not, as long as they don't put in the language around the affordable units, that's what, is problematic. And the same with the lease is old. It was developed back in like 2005, but some form of that has been used for pretty much all the leasehold projects that are around. They change things, they always change things, but the main concepts in it have remained the same. And both of those went through Attorney General and Inspector General review. So again, as long as they don't change, the control issues when they talked about, controlling development and operation in the lease, that can't happen. And when they talked about the affordability, those are the two things that that would kill the project, one by, the Attorney General and the other by just financial feasibility.
So Laura, we'll have legal review those two documents. Obviously, the legal ones they're most concerned about.
Yeah.
And then we'll cycle back to you for review of that, those legal documents, to make sure that they're, consistent with what we need to have in there.
Okay, and you should know that they are templates that often get, negotiated. So they just have to set out, terms kind of, so that the developers have some idea of what they're getting into.
Yes.
Yep, no, fully understood on that. But, they
Yeah.
obviously wanted to take a crack at those and before we put them in as attachments.
Oh yeah, totally understand. Typically that does happen.
So, I mean, in essence, they really haven't put in anything that was terribly missing. They've added stuff we don't want. I think we feel comfortable with how we've discussed it and what you feel should come out and the little tiny changes. So how do we go about getting that done?
Well, I can either send you my comments and you can make the changes, or I can send them to Katie and she can make the changes. I need to have a conversation with Danielle, our general counsel.
Okay.
About the language around the affordability, just to get it right.
Perfect, yeah.
Okay.
Get it?
So having us take one more look at it sometime before September 8th, is that feasible?
Yeah, I think so. I have a meeting with Danielle on Thursday. So, and we're actually meeting on this issue on another project. The end of this, I think the end of this week sometime as well. So I can draft something up and have her review it.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Any more comments on the RFP or the schedule for that right now?
I have a question. Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm wondering how much of what we change from what the attorney said we have to justify when we make our presentation to the selectmen. Do we have to go through everything that we disagreed with, or can we just say we've reviewed it with our experts and this is what we have?
I mean, the select board isn't actually seeing this version of it as far
Yeah,
as,
that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, this for.
They're not gonna know one way or the other, Jan, so.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know, Kathy. Thank you.
They don't need to know how the sausage is made.
Okay. Well, thank you, Laura and Katie. Laura, just if you want to jump off, we're going to talk about the town meeting and the water article.
Okay.
I'm sure you saw the report on the wastewater system.
I haven't actually got to read it yet.
Yeah, no, it's
Wow.
done. Everybody got it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, there's a lot there, and Gary had a good suggestion. I mean, they show charts of the costs for the IA systems. They have a good chart for the cost of the treatment. Gary thought if they included a chart for a basic Title V too, it would show what we're talking about in terms of difference, or can we not even use a standard Title V at 95 Lawrence?
I don't think you can.
I don't think we can use standard Title V.
Yeah, you couldn't. I don't think you could.
Okay.
No.
And supposedly they will be presenting this to the select board on September 8th also, right, Mike?
That is the game plan right now.
Okay, all right.
Okay, good.
And
They do a good job in front of boards.
great.
It's been my experience with them.
Yeah, and
Yeah, they're slick.
yeah, and Mike and Jim are really working hard getting the MassWorks grant together. When we were meeting, we met with the town administrator right before this meeting, our new town administrator, to tell her, kind of really talk about the water issue and the housing. And she asked if it would be at all possible or permissible for Mass Housing Partnership to write a support letter for the Mass Works grant.
I don't know. I'll have to check on that.
Might not be kosher.
Right, right. But I thought that was, you know, or somebody came up with that idea. And since we were going to see you this afternoon.
I'll take the blame for that. That was my idea.
Okay.
That's okay. Sometimes we do better just in conversations.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and I think, you know, in the description for the project, we've mentioned, can we mention you by name, or do we just say we've been working with Mass Housing Partnership?
You can say both. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Okay. Nice to
Thank
see
you,
you all.
Laura.
Thank you, Laura.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
Yep. Okay. Okay. Town
Elaine,
meeting.
before you start, I just want to mention that Wellfleet received $500,000 in a state grant as of yesterday for the restoration of the Herring River.
Wow.
The Baker administration, as we've said before, is looking for shovel-ready projects. So I'm really optimistic about the Mass Works grant for 95 Lawrence Road. My fingers are crossed because, you know, they're looking at the town for dredging right now, the Herring River restoration, and an upgrade for our water system. So I'm hopeful that the money will be there.
Oh, that's
Aren't
great
we all?
news for the town and the Herring River. I did send all of you Jim's info sheet that will be there for people for voting. I don't know if we want to look at that and any additional explanation needed.
Thought it was
I
great.
think it's really well done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask a question about the voting? We're going to vote first, and then we're going to have town meeting after the vote.
Yes.
And if the vote is not positive, then I assume the town meeting.
What I understand from that, Gary, in talking with Harry Turkanian, what really matters is the vote at town meeting, not necessarily the ballot vote, but the town meeting vote. So even if it fails on the ballot, it depends on what happens at town meeting.
Well, in general, when we have a money issue, a borrowing issue, we have town meeting, and if there's a yay, then we ask for the vote. And we have had occasions when the vote has not been positive, even though it passed at town meeting. So I'm just a little confused as to the process this year. So that vote, good. I'm sorry, Elaine.
I talked with Danny Silverman about procedure and possibilities and scenarios. And he was going to look into this further, but he said if it was not voted at the election, but it was voted at town meeting, there's a period, a window of time, which could be up to 9 months, where you can have another vote.
Right.
So should it fail at the election, it should still go forward at town meeting, hopefully, positive. We would have an opportunity to come back for another vote with time in between to do more educating if we have to.
Okay, so say this happens, say at town election, which is September 8th, our water article passes, but it fails at town meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we then?
Then I think we're back to the drawing board.
Okay.
Yeah, although, yeah, it's a.
See, we've never had an election before a town meeting.
Right.
This is what's so confusing this year. We're having an election of articles to spend on, and we haven't even had a town meeting yet. So it's conceivable this can pass at an election on the 8th of September, and fail at a town meeting. Is that still a yay or a nay? I don't know.
More likely, I think it's the other way around. I think when we have town meeting, as we always have first, we educate people about the issues, and by the time they make a vote at town meeting, they know what they want to do at the poll. Now we're asking them to vote on things that they may very well not understand because there's not been any public discussion about.
Right. But here's another scenario, Jan.
Yeah.
In former town meetings, and I don't want to go on too long about this, we have voted for a front end loader for the DPW.
Yeah, I know.
And yet when we got to the ballot box we weren't with our constituents and our citizens, we said, no, I'm not going to get that front end loader.
Right.
And it fails.
But that has happened relatively few times compared to how many times we pass things.
Well, not according to Chief Bissett or Chief Hawley.
Right. They've had a lot of turn downs.
They have no's.
There on Monday, August 31st at 5, there is a Zoom public meeting about the election. So that is an opportunity to speak to the question on
Is that the pre-town meeting?
No. This is just on the election, explaining the election. So that is an opportunity to educate people. The pre-town meeting is September
8th
or 9th. Yeah.
It's after the vote. It's very strange.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and the 8th, right? The select board are meeting that night too. It's town election. It's.
Elaine, I wondered. I sent an email to the clerk, and I still haven't gotten an answer back. Is there remote voting for the town election?
No.
Oh wait, no. There's mail-in.
No.
Right.
No, for town. Oh, for town election. Yes.
Kathleen just got her ballot.
Yeah, there's mail-in. You can mail it in.
Not for the town election.
For the town election, right?
Did you request, Kathleen, a ballot?
Yes, I requested a ballot.
Huh, I did too.
Well,
You
Kathleen
should be getting it today or tomorrow.
Yeah.
I see.
But I feel like there's so much more procedure we should be understanding about what could potentially happen at town meeting, and if there's any kind of adjustment to the question if need be. I don't know who we get that kind of information from.
Well, Dan should be able to help you as much as possible with that as moderator.
But,
I don't have the answers to that myself, but top of my head.
Yeah, and the other piece of it, as Dan Silverman said, is just because borrowing is authorized, the select board are not required to borrow. Are they willing to say something like, should we not get the grants we feel we need, we will not borrow until we get money? I mean, how do you deal with that?
Well, the town, in the past, Elaine, the town administrator has usually made the point at town meeting that this would be a borrowing article only if we didn't get the grants. That information needs to come right up front with regard to the water. And it's in the ballot, it's left empty as to what that amount is.
Right.
So, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But usually the town administrator makes a pitch, letting it be known that, we only borrow this money if we have to.
Mm-hmm.
We fully expect we'll get the grants on this.
Yeah. But even if we didn't get the grant this year, it would be so helpful getting the grant next time to have the town heads put their support behind.
Right, exactly. That's important for the Mass Works applicant.
Right.
Support. And that's one of the questions that's in the application. So we're not able to say that it's been approved by the voters yet, but we will make them aware that we'll come back to them with that information.
Good.
Yeah, but you know, it's a tricky situation. So we're asking for 3.89 million, and somebody stands up, well, how much are we actually going to have to borrow? Who says what?
How much explanation, Kathleen, you got your ballot. Is there much explanation?
No,
None.
no, it's ridiculous, actually. It's just ridiculous.
So do we have anybody in the, Mike, would you be at town meeting and be able to kind of speak to the finesse, not finessing, but, you know, the possibilities of approving it, but, you know.
Conditionally?
Yeah.
I don't know how, this will be my first town meeting, I'm going to be honest with you. So I'm used to a community that we don't have town meeting. So I'm not sure what the protocol is for how that gets addressed when the article comes up. And someone indicated that the town administrator typically spoke to it. Certainly can confab with Maria on that and see how best to approach that.
I mean, if it can be effective for one of us to say that, to say the right thing, you know, to give
I agree, Elaine.
Situation. We should be possibly prepared to do that.
And this is Maria's first town meeting, so I'm not sure I want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jim, are you presenting at town meeting?
Am I?
Yes.
Yes. We'll just describe what the warrant article is. And I mean, I don't know that I can be in a position of saying, and speaking on behalf of the select board, to say, well, if we don't get, you know, substantial grant funding for this, we're not going to, you know, we won't proceed with borrowing. You know, so I don't know whether or not that's something that we could ask the select board, anyone on the select board to say. What do you think, Kathleen?
I think, Jim, you're actually in a position because you've been working on the grant with Mike Travato, that in your presentation, you should start this off as saying, you know, this is a water infrastructure article we're looking to fund through a Mass Works grant that I personally have been working on. Should we not get the grant funding that we need, we will have to consider borrowing. I think
the way I would present that would be, it would be the Water Commission's recommendation that depending upon the level of grant funding that we receive, whether or not the town should proceed with the borrowing, it would just be a recommendation from us, because obviously we can't make that determination.
Right.
Would that be something Harry could advise us about? How to approach such this scenario?
It's a good idea, Elaine.
Yeah, and ask him, you know, how we should frame that in, you know, in a presentation.
Mm-hmm. Would you feel like you could ask him, Jim?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be. I think we really need to have the whole menu of what we need to do to, you know, get this through. I mean, it just would be.
One other thought, Jim, you're going to be putting a piece, the one pager into the warrant, right? Could we explain it there?
Right.
Could you explain it in that document?
Well, assuming that I will reach out to Harry and ask if we can present this in such a way that it's coming from the Water Commission, and then suggest that it be worded in such a way in anything we write, that it will show that the Water Commission's support for this is based on the assumption that we're going to receive a substantial amount in grant funding for this project.
Is the motion set now?
No.
No, not yet. So can we, and that's the other place we might consider working it into the motion, if we can.
Let me just double check that, Gary, and see if
No,
I
I
have the
think that, I
motion.
think,
I think
I
it
think the
is
motions
working.
are already done.
Yeah.
You know what, Mike, sometimes they change even from what's printed in the warrant
Right.
to what's read by the select board at town meeting. So that's what I'm saying. The final wording of the motion, could it address that?
Do you know the number of the article, Jim?
Ben,
Article 10.
While you're looking, Kathleen, I think as much support as we can get from people like Harry, considering that so much of our staff is new, having people who are familiar with what we do here in town and familiar faces that have been around a long time, that helps a lot, I think.
All right, let me read you the motion. To see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money not to exceed $3,800,043 for the purpose of planning, designing, and construction of a new water main, bidding and bid documents and related infrastructure on Route 6 and Briar Lane to improve the hydraulic flow of water from the town's secondary water source, and for the payment of other costs. All right, that's just part of this motion, but it does not say it. We should preface this, whoever's going to read the motion, whatever selectman's going to read this motion, it should be prefaced, this money will only be borrowed should the grant funding not cover the costs. Is everybody with me on that?
Yeah.
Well,
Go ahead, Jim.
no, I was going to say that to assume that we're going to see 3.83 million is not likely in terms of a grant. So there will be some borrowing, in all likelihood, there will be some borrowing required to offset the shortfall.
Right.
But it's going to be up to the select board to determine what that level of borrowing would be permissible and under what circumstances. I mean,
Well, actually, it's not up to the select board, Jim. It's going to be up to the town administrator. We have an article here that's requesting, 3.8 million, $3,800,000. Let's say we get $3 million in a grant. You get $3 million grant. Then we're only borrowing $800,000.
correct.
Right.
I've had people ask me, because I think on most of the other articles that are asking to buy something major, it tells you how much it would cost you in your taxes. But with this one,
there's a lot of ambiguity because of the grant.
Ambiguity. I mean, what would happen if someone got up at town meeting and changed the amount to $1 million? Would we support that? Something to start with?
It doesn't do what we need to do. I mean, we have.
But are we in our hearts asking the town itself if they have to borrow 3.8, or are we going to keep going?
You kind of have to be prepared for that, don't you?
Well, I think you have to go back to the drawing board for the grants.
So the thing that we care about here is when to issue the RFP, we're basically saying this is not a cost you're going to have to deal with.
That's true.
And so it depends what the timing is and what the timing of the submission is from the developers. I mean, ideally, we'd like to have that vote at the point we send out the RFP.
Right.
But are we, if there's, I don't know when the MassWorks decision is made, but I'm wondering if that decision is made prior to when the town has to accept one of the proposals. Do we still have
my understanding, Carl, is that the Mass Works review and approval of a grant would likely happen before the end of this year. So October, November, or early December.
And when do we think the RFP is likely to be issued finally? And how much time before we need to make a decision about the proposals?
Our short-term goal, Carl, is to issue it in October. I don't know if that's realistic, but Laura told us that either October or March is the optimal time.
Well, it's been worked and reworked. How much more can we do on it?
Right. Okay. So just to get back to Elaine's point, Elaine, I think in our hearts, we are saying to people or voters that if we want 46 units of affordable mixed rental at 95 Lawrence Road, yes, we are asking for $3,800,000. I mean, that is the bottom line here. If we are to see this project go forward, the town is going to have to pony up in part or all in part, you know, this money for the water.
So who could tell us what that would mean on our taxes? I don't, you know, I just want to know that.
Our finance committee, Fred McGee.
Okay.
I would go to Fred McGee, the chair, and give him this sum, and he will tell you what that would mean on taxes.
Yeah. I mean, you know.
Yeah, what's scary right now, and I don't want to get off track here, is that we are going to be looking at a dramatic increase in our tax levy for 2021. So you're asking people right now, before this pandemic is over, to spend this kind of money for affordable housing. And next year, I mean, the gauntlet's going to come down with regard to what it's going to cost tax-wise. And, you know, there's just no way around this.
I mean, there's a timeline that, you know, should this not all work out this time, which I kind of am holding out that it will.
Don't trust it'll work the next time.
No, but what you do then is you get the money to have the engineering done. So the RFP doesn't go out. If you don't get MassWorks, you go to MassWorks next year with the engineering for the water system done, because that's the shovel-ready project they want to see. As Laura said, this project is as important for the town, the water system, the safety of the town, as the housing project.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's the water system for the viability and the sustainability of the town economically. You know, these two things go hand in hand. But every town in the Commonwealth right now is looking at a very dramatic change for 2021. There's no way around it.
Yeah. Well,
I can tell you that on the borrowing that we have done with the USDA on the low interest loans that we've had there, that we currently have outstanding on that, I would say somewhere around probably $2.5 million. And that debt service on an annual basis is around, I believe, 100,000, 20,000, somewhere in that range. I don't know the exact number. I don't have it in front of me. And so looking at this, even if we said it was 150,000 on the full amount or on 3 million, we're talking about a 40-year payback period that amounts to, you know, essentially double of what we'd be borrowing. And but 150,000 a year would be the debt service on something like that.
And so that's what you would figure the increase in the tax.
That's a really rough assumption. But I think we could get, you know, a better number on that and share that. If we had to do all or most of this, the cost as a loan, what would that mean for us?
Yeah. I think to not know that would make us look like we hadn't really done our homework, you know.
Oh, I agree, Elaine. I agree.
Yeah. So, you know, hopefully it's the whole enchilada this year. If not, we do the tapas, pieces at a time.
I do think it's making the case, not just hanging it on the affordable housing. I mean, there's so many different reasons to be doing this.
Right.
You know, people are concerned about the economy now for the town and how important it is for that. And I think, Jim, you know, I didn't know about that lightning strike and you know, the why this is so important. And,
Right.
you know, there's a strong case for it on many levels.
Right.
And you're going to see, Carl, that Chief Pauly, our fire chief, is going to make a strong case for this. He wants this to go through. We're threadbare for fire suppression. And this causes us to have a very high liability and insurance rate as a municipality. We do not have fire suppression.
He did write a very nice letter in support of the MassWorks grant application that we're submitting with the application.
Yeah, as did Sarah Peak and Julian Sear.
Oh, good.
Oh, awesome.
And
That's
then
great.
I'm going to make a few tweaks to ours based on some stuff that Catherine put forward, which is really more emphasizing the need and, you know, that. And I'll get it to you, Jim. And the Housing Authority and the Local Housing Partnership also are doing letters. Gary, I kind of liked how Julian and Sarah did theirs together on one letter. Would you want to consider doing that for Housing Authority?
I would, yeah.
Local Housing Partnership?
Does it have more impact as separate letters?
I
don't know. I have no idea how much they really care or amount to.
Well, I think our local housing authority and our partnership go hand in hand. So I think that if you should, you know, if you could combine your signatures and your letters together, you know.
Yeah, I think then they're not reading almost the same letter twice. So maybe it has more impact because it's, they only have to read that one.
Sure.
I would just say that Mike and I hope to submit this application no later than Thursday.
Okay.
So that's fine, Elaine. Why don't we talk tomorrow and we can consolidate them.
Okay. So you're going to have a conversation with Harry kind of about.
I'll ask on that, yes.
I'll check with Fred McGee to get sort of a breakdown of costs and things. And if you can show up on the 31st at 5 for the election forum. And I don't know if you feel like once we get everything back from Laura, we need to meet again, or we just get it to the select board.
Get it to the select board because we're really down to just technical details.
You're right. I think we've beaten this thing to death, and I feel confident you can, Elaine, if you have to go back to legal or Mike or whomever, then you could do that prior to that. I'm more concerned about mounting our campaign to support the water. Is there anything else that we need to be doing, either by way of mailings or?
Yeah, I think it's really important to support it for all the reasons. You know, the town's water system equally, or even more so than housing, but they're both very important things.
Elaine, I need to get back to you with the time when we are going to do a Zoom interview that Mia has agreed to, or has offered to put up on Channel 18.
Okay.
So basically answering some of the questions around the importance of the water article to the housing project. So that I think we'll need to do that before the end of this week.
Okay, that's good. And I mean, Gary and I are working with the CDP on another e-newsletter to put out, really all focused on town meeting. You know, we only have a little over 100 subscribers so far, but it's, you know, it is another way of reaching out. So, okay.
Okay.
So Elaine, just one last thing. We didn't really talk much about the wastewater report, which obviously just got in your hands. But if we intend to, as you mentioned earlier, hopefully present that on the 8th. But I just want to, as part of our contract with the consultant, we said we would run that by the task force just so that they could see that document. I don't think, obviously, there's not a lot of things you can do with that document as far as changes or anything like that. But although I appreciate the thought of the Title V edition, I've actually asked them for a summary report so that it make it a lot easier for people like the select board to read it without having to get into the minutia.
Really?
Because there's TMI in that report, frankly. But I just wanted to make sure I got sort of a consensus from the task force that will be okay to present that on the 8th, because it is the project.
Sure.
I was surprised there wasn't an executive summary, and I turned to the conclusion thinking that I would basically get it from that.
Yeah.
No way.
Well, I'll tell you what. I will get that executive summary out to Elaine. To you guys through Elaine, and it should be in hand this week. And then if there's any questions or whatever, maybe we can take it from that approach. Maybe it's just sort of a consent to put this on the agenda for the 8th. Again, I don't think there's really much action you guys need to take on this. I just wanted to let you know that it's just one more box we're checking off here relative to this project. Want to just show it to the select board as well. Obviously, that gets also in the public eye as well for the project. But so, I think it's all good things happening on that front. But I just wanted to make sure that, I didn't do anything without task force consent on that.
Wastewater and water are such critical pieces to the project. On the 8th, we have the election and we have the presentation of the RFP, which I think will be fairly in-depth. And do you also want to do the wastewater at the same meeting, or should we push that for the next meeting? We will make it one, a long one, and two, the wastewater is a lightning rod for a lot of discussion, as we have seen in Truro. So I guess that's the question is, do we want to push it back a couple weeks?
Yeah, I mean, this is the other thing too. Should we push the RFP 2 more weeks past the 8th? Because by then we'll know what the town meeting results.
Yeah.
I think getting that RFP out in front of the select board one more time gets it out in front of the public as well.
Right.
I think that can only be to your advantage.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Mike.
Yeah.
Well, what about the wastewater presentation?
I'm not sure about that, Gary. I mean, it might be just too much on the select board's plate
That's what I was wondering. Yeah.
So that maybe you're right. Maybe you go to the 28th of September or their last meeting in September. But I'd also get Courtney's opinion on that, because she does the agenda for the select board.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just to be clear, it's the consultant that will make that presentation. So there's no.
Yeah, it's going to be lengthy.
Yeah, they can make it as quick or as long as we want them to, in that regard. So yeah, we don't have to make that decision today. I just wanted to let you know that's sort of where we're at right now. And if there's if there is a push to move that back, then I'll move it back. And there is no timeline on that other than technically the consultant's supposed to make the report by that date. But if we push it back, they're going to still do it whatever day we ask them to.
Would they consider doing it for us before they do it for the select board? I had trouble reading any of the maps. I didn't, trying to orient where they were talking about doing things. I couldn't figure that out at all.
Certainly could ask them. It isn't part of their agreement. It was just one presentation.
Okay.
And I felt it was probably appropriate that it go in front of the select board so they heard it, but because it also then gets more heard by the public. you know, at a larger meeting setting. But why don't you read the summary report and see if it makes sense to you? If it doesn't, then maybe we can talk about how, you know, where we want to go with that. If you have questions that are outstanding, I'm sure they'll be happy to answer them, whether via a meeting, a Zoom meeting, or, you know, in writing.
No, I think the information in it is excellent and can be of value to other towns, you know.
Sure.
Anybody that's looking at something like that right now. So.
Yeah, I think we all learn from each other's experiences as we're learning from Churro. You know, experiences we're going to go through, future developments are going to learn from us. You know, that's always carried forward.
All right. Well, it was great that you all could be here today, and great that Laura and Katie were able to be there. So thank you. Any more
Could
questions?
I ask one other question? Hey, Mike, are you still there?
Yeah.
You mentioned Truro. Which IA system of the 5 that they presented in the report, was one of them the one that they selected for Truro for the Cloverleaf project?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know the exact, Gary. Does someone else? I haven't read it yet.
Yes, Gary. The
Do you know which
answer is
one
yes.
it was? What? I'm sorry?
The answer is yes.
Do you know which one it was?
I think it's the same one that we were looking at with Horsley Witten.
No, there were
The
5.
IA.
Okay. Anyway, if we could clarify that, that'd be great.
Yeah, I'll clarify just to make sure which one it was.
Carl, did you have something?
Nope.
No? Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Elaine.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye-bye, everybody. Stay healthy.
Bye.